Well, meanwhile, parts of Central and Western Africa have also been hit by extreme weather. The region has seen heavy flooding after what has been an unusually intense rainy season. The result is a humanitarian crisis with more than 500 people dead and hundreds of thousands of homes destroyed. Chad, Niger, and Nigeria have been especially hard hit. The UN says more than 1 million people have been impacted in Chad alone. Farmland that is vital for local economies and food security has been washed away. And for many, it's a situation that has gone from bad to worse. Well, I'm going to cross over now to Kiswendsida Guigma from the Red Cross Climate Center in Burkina Faso. It's good to have you with us. I just want to begin by asking you, what are you hearing about the situation from your people, the Red Cross? Just how severe is it?
Yeah, bad news, really. It's not good news that we are hearing at all from either communities or from our colleagues from the Red Cross. Everyone is reporting that this is indeed a situation which is really catastrophic, even for the region, which is now getting a bit familiar with floods.
What about getting help to the people who need it most right now? Talk to me about the ability to do that.
Well, at the moment, when I take the case of the Red Cross, for example, we have in place some funding that is able to be delivered to communities in cases of crisis like these current floods. And so we have activated in many countries, like in Nigeria, for example, the disaster risk emergency funds. But for the case of Chad, which is particularly severe, it was necessary for us to do a special appeal because the needs were quite significant and the usual disaster risk emergency funds were not sufficient to cover them.
Yeah, I want to pick up on Chad for a moment. We know that many refugees from the war in Sudan have left Sudan and gone into Chad. How are the floods affecting the relief work there?
Yeah, definitely it makes things much more complicated. You know that even without the flood, these people were already in a particularly, let's say, a hostile environment. And now with the flooding, everything becomes difficult. So even getting access to these people is even more complicated. And it is, if I may, it is similar in countries such as Niger and Mali, where in addition to this climate crisis, you also have the political crisis there, making the efforts to relieve people a bit more difficult.
The Red Cross, as I'm sure you're aware, is facing more and more of these double crises caused by climate change in addition to war, political unrest. Do you have the resources to handle this type of double whammy?
Well, at the moment, of course, this is not ideal yet. The Red Cross doesn't have all the capacity it takes. But you may have seen that in recent years, we are developing quite a number of tools to be able to face these types of crises. We are working now more and more on anticipatory action for complex settings. And by complex settings, you mean climate and conflict and also climate and migration. These are things that the Red Cross is trying to progressively get into. But of course, since it's yet the beginning, it is important for us to consolidate that to become more effective in upcoming events.
Where are you getting the majority of the resources that you need at the moment? Is it coming from governments in the area, or are you having to seek more and more from private sources?
Well, it's mainly from governments supporting the Red Cross movement. You know that the Red Cross movement is the largest humanitarian network in the world. So it is mainly government, but of course, this is becoming less and less sufficient. And as a result, the Red Cross is also obliged, if I may say, to turn to other potential sources, and private partners indeed also are really good sources for us to get the funding we need to support those that are the most in need, especially in complex settings, as we said, in West Africa and Central Africa, and particularly the Sahel band.
You know, as you say, most of your resources traditionally have come from governments, public sources. Do you get the impression that governments, particularly in this part of Africa, that they are preparing for a future that will include more and more of these crises, climate change, perhaps with political instability?
Do you mean governments from the Sahel countries or governments, the funders, basically?
The governments in the Sahel region.
Well, in the Sahel region, you might know that the situation is quite complex because at the moment, most of them are dealing with insecurity, with lots of political crises, and this includes Nigeria, Chad, as well as countries in the central side, so Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. So for them, it's not immediately possible to dedicate more fundings to humanitarian, climate-related disasters at the moment. So definitely there might be need to support these governments to plan for more, because unfortunately, in the next few years and next few decades, this is just going to worsen. So even if the security crisis stabilizes, the climate one is expected to worsen. So it's very important to support these governments that at the moment, unfortunately, cannot do much about the crisis.
Kiswendsida Guigma with the Red Cross Climate Center. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.